Hi, I'm Caitlin. So this is part 2 to my uni video because my original footage was like 50 minutes long and I wasn't about to torture you guys with posting a video that was nearly an hour long with just me talking. So I've split it into two. The first video, I'll have it linked down below, is basically a Q&A about my uni life and everything to do with my degree and my experience with it, as well as some frequently asked questions that I get regarding being in university. And then this video is about my actual tips and tricks that I've picked up over the past 2 to 3 years of doing uni. I'm just doing this little intro so that you guys will understand why it's split into two. Enjoy the video! I've kind of gotten the hang of online school, so I figured I would share some of my tips and tricks on how I've passed. And for anyone who's going into college or university, whatever you call it in your country, I just figured I would help you guys out. I do have a similar video already up on my channel. I'm just gonna go through some tips and tricks that I picked up from some of the classes I took. The first tip was ask questions no matter how scared you are. If you don't want to ask the question in front of the whole class because you're scared you're gonna look stupid, wait until the end to ask it, or kind of ask your table. Teachers a lot of the time will say there's no such thing as a stupid question, and it's so true. Like, I have asked some of the stupidest questions and they've just said, no, that's fine, that's a valid question, and they're more often than not, they're very validating and they make you feel really good when you do get it. So just try. Next tip is, especially for like classes that are mathematical based and practical based, do practice questions. Your textbook will have Prac Questions on it, and if you have access to it, see if you can find like past papers or things like that. I'm sure the internet is full of them. Next, try and find a friend in class to send answers back and forth. So I found my friend through a mutual friend because this was the second time I actually did this subject, so I kind of knew the mechanics of how the subject worked. And a mutual friend of mine had said, oh, my friend failed the subject too, do you want me to send you her like Facebook or whatever and you guys can like meet up in class? And I was like, yeah, for sure, we'll do that, because I know I needed a friend in that class to pass. Because when you don't have anyone to bounce answers off and you're not sure what you're doing and you're also very anxious about the class and you can't ask questions, having at least just one person is really helpful, and it was really helpful for me, and she helped me a lot, and we were both able to pass the subject. Do your notes. I don't always do this, but if you struggle in a subject, my gosh, do your notes. You will regret it so much if you get to the end of semester and you don't have any of your notes done. I don't do my notes for every subject anymore. I only do them for the classes that I struggle in. By now, I've kind of gotten used to how lectures work, and I can pull out the most important notes from a lecture slide without having to actively take notes during the day or during the lecture. So I usually put all my energy of note-taking into subjects that I struggle with. Next, again, this is for a very mathy subject. Take note of all of the working out your teacher does. They don't care if you take photos of the board, no matter how small the working out is, or you can just be like, hey, can you send me the working out, or can I have a copy of the working out at the end of the class? Very easy to ask them, and if they don't want to give you the actual paper, more often than not, they will just let you take a photo. If you don't manage to get all of the working out, like taken photo of all of it, ask the person next to you. They're not gonna say no to you. I've never met anyone like at all in the entirety of my course who has like actively said, no, I'm not gonna give you my notes. Because everyone is struggling. Remember, everyone is struggling. Next, and this is kind of really relevant to all subjects, break it up into small pieces. If it is a formula, look at it one by one. If it is a strategy for like a business strategy, write down all of the steps in that and then analyze them one by one. Don't look at it as a whole because it will be too overwhelming. So take it one step at a time, no matter how slow it is. Just do it slowly, because then you'll be able to give your brain a break, and you'll be able to let it understand and let it absorb all of the information slowly. For subjects that are research-based, which is a lot of my subjects, do your primary research early. If you don't know what primary research is, you're the individual who goes out to extrapolate all the information. So that's primary research. Secondary research is when you look at research that has already been created by someone else. So when you're doing your research project, do it early so that if they need to cancel on you, you will have more time. And also with that, ask more than the minimum amount. So like, for example, I had to ask or / interview 3 people, but I made sure that I had 5 potential individuals so that if someone wasn't available or if I didn't get enough information from someone, I had extra people to bounce off of. Okay, this is again with group projects, make sure that the work is split evenly with the group, okay? I know it sounds really obvious because it's a group project, but like, be that person who is like, they're not doing enough, they need to do more. Put people in their place, because at the end of the day, you guys could possibly be getting the same mark, and it's not fair if someone isn't pulling their own weight. If your marks are going to be based off of the amount of work that you put in, still make it clear to everyone that they need to be putting in 100% of their effort into their work. And if they're not going to put 100% in at the beginning of like your meeting or whatever, ask everyone what they want their outcome to be for that subject. Also with group stuff, play to your strengths. Every time I get put into a group assignment, I make it clear to them, I can't do math to save my life. If you put me in a financial or like anything to do with like maths, I'm not gonna do well. Put me in something that I will do good in. But if you're gonna put me in a math thing, put me with someone else so that we can work together, or else it's not gonna get done well. If you're honest with your group mates, they will be so thankful for you, because otherwise you're gonna mess them over at the end and they're gonna hate you. And no one wants that. This is also for subjects that are very content heavy. Go over your concepts often. And by often, I mean like at least once or twice after you've learned it, and then again when you're doing the exam, so that when you go to preparing for your exam, you already know that you can define it, you can apply an example, and you can apply a situation to it. Have a document full of all of the different concepts that you have, and then just have definition, example, situation. Look on your school site for Prac quizzes. I did mention this. More often than not, if you have a semester quiz, they will put Prac quizzes up beforehand, and they will also tell you. So keep an eye on your announcements and put notifications on your emails so that you know what to do. For peer-reviewed subjects, this is the one where I said like your marks sometimes aren't always the same as your other group mates. Try to offer help once you've completed your part, because it makes you look good, and usually they will assign you to a part that is kind of meant for 2 people anyway, so you're not going to be alone in helping them. With all group stuff, call at least once a fortnight, depending on how often you have that class, and use that as a touch point. Otherwise, it's going to be really hard to keep track of what's happening, especially if you have a lot of group members. And I know it's hard when there's like 7 or 8 people in your group and you have to try and get everyone to talk about it, talk about the project, but literally just the hour before class is enough just for you guys to talk about what's happening in the group, the project, what's the status on everyone's parts, and when do we need these parts to be done by. If they want to pass the subject, they will put in the effort. And if they don't want to put in the effort, then tell your teacher and get them out of that group, because they will bring your mark down. If they get kicked out, it's their own damn fault. I am putting it quite simply because I have had some really crap group members in the past and I've had to shoulder all of the weight. They've gotten the same mark as me at that distinction level, and it's not fair. So take it from me, like, kick them out while you can. This is a call out to myself. Don't leave the easy stuff till last minute. It's a really good tip. I just don't follow it very often. I know how easy it is to say to yourself, that's really simple, I can do that in 10 minutes, I'll put it off later. No. Do it now so that later you can rest. Secondary research takes time, so allocate time for that. I didn't do this for one of my subjects. It took me ages to find specific academic articles, and like it pushed all of my work like a day behind because I couldn't find information. So what I did then after that subject was allocate like literally an hour of my studying time just to search for articles that were relevant, and then spend the time reading each of them, and then that would be my set studying time because I'm still doing something that is actively for my assessment. It is tedious and is very time consuming, but if you do it right, you're gonna get the results. Oh my gosh, I hate this tip, but it's really helpful. Actually participating in breakout rooms is actually helpful. Who would have thought? It's almost like they do it for a reason. Even if no one talks in there, if you keep talking in them, someone will take pity on you and they will talk back. I promise you. Because I've been that person. I will be in that call and I will say hey, and if no one says hey, I will type in the chat box and I will say hey, and then they will start talking back. Even if it's in chat, it's okay because someone is talking to you. And sometimes you need to be working with someone else in order to get to the bottom of a question or a problem or to solve something. Next, go to revision lectures. This is kind of self-explanatory, but like, if you want to do well in the class, you gotta put in the effort, and that means going to a revision lecture. If you do not go to any of your lectures, like often I do not, at least go to the revision one, because they will go through literally everything and condense it in a very neat, albeit long, PDF file, and you'll be able to use your study notes. And then you won't have to do your study notes because it'll be already done for you. Next, also very self-explanatory, but people don't do it. Do your tutorial work before your actual class, because sometimes the classwork specifically says we will discuss this in class, so do it before. I like those classes because it gives us a chance to actually work it out. I don't know, that's a personal thing. I don't know about you guys, but I like preparing things beforehand and then being ready rather than being put on the spot. This one is also really good. Allocating a leader is really important, and it's also really easy in a big group. So you just have to make sure that that leader is going to do it. I don't recommend pointing fingers at people. I recommend saying who wants to be a leader, because whoever wants to be a leader is going to be the one who is willing to put in the effort to be that leader. If you point fingers at someone and they actively do not want it, they are obviously not going to put in the same amount of effort as someone who volunteered. That is common sense. If you're in a relatively small group, like 3 or 4 people, you typically don't need a leader because the group work is like shared so evenly. You can take it a little bit more chill, but if it's with people that you think may not listen all the time, allocate a leader and see if that helps. If it doesn't help, then it's not that like harmful because it's only a couple of people, but I do recommend for big groups you do allocate a leader. With big groups, schedules and touch points are really helpful. You just schedule a time, say, okay, we want all this work to be done by this time, and have that date be before the actual due date of the project so that there's time to edit and change things, and make sure that everyone agrees with it. Leading up to it, make sure you're reminding each other, hey, is this done, whatever. And once you have handed in your stuff to whoever is meant to edit it, tell them, don't just hand it in and then just leave it. It's really infuriating when you're just asking people for it and then they're not responding, and then it's there but then they haven't said anything. It just gets all messy and it pisses me off. So also, presentation is really important in some subjects. Some subjects, not so much, but read the rubric, and sometimes even 5% it'll say presentation. In this particular class, I learned that presentation is really important, and this girl had gone into a lot of effort to make our group report look really professional and look really, really good. And since then, I have upped my own presentation game for my reports, and now they all look sexy. Next, when you get given a crappy group, you either decide to tell your teacher or be ready to deal with it. I dealt with it. I don't recommend. Tell your teacher. Tell your teacher as soon as you realize that they are not pulling their weight, and your teacher will get them out. And if the teacher doesn't get them out, then they will get a 0. Make it clear in either a peer review or in your final presentation that they did not put any effort into it, and they will get a 0, and they will have to repeat the subject, and that is not your problem. It is theirs, because they didn't put in the effort. Yeah, I'm still really upset about this group, can you tell? So again, because I was put in this like crap group, be strict with the people in it and delegating your tasks clearly. If you can tell that they're not good at a certain thing, don't give them that. Like, again, play to their strengths as well. Like, ask them, what do you want to do? And then you can take it. First come, first serve. If they don't allocate themselves to something, then they have to deal with it. No matter how much you hate your class, don't skip it. I say this because I've had classes where I've literally been like, I was so anxious about this one class in my second year. Like, it gave me so much anxiety. I would cry like when we went into breakout rooms, and I would just leave the class. Don't do that. No matter how much you hate a class, just stay in it and have it as background sound. For me, I didn't have to put my camera or my microphone on like at all times, so I was able to just sit there and just like kind of try and absorb as much information as I could. So don't leave your classes, don't skip them, just attend them. Something will absorb. Even if it's the smallest thing, something will absorb if you just stay there. Be honest with your group if you haven't done something. Again, this is just with being a decent human being. They will be understanding so long as you are honest. If you're having trouble with something, say that. I was put in a group with 4 girls, so there was a total of 5 of us. Had to leave the class because of personal reasons, so it ended up being a 6 group task put onto 4 people, and that was a lot of work. So I personally was having a lot of trouble with writing something, and I didn't get it done in time. So I said to them, hey, I can't do this task. Can someone either help me or can someone take over and I can do something smaller? They understood. They said, that's okay. Just do this part and then we will do this, and just edit what we've done. Another time, like, I was really, really anxious about something, and I had put myself up to edit the video for our group, but then I had said I had to backtrack maybe like a couple of days later and say, hey, being honest, my mental health is not great right now. I don't think I'm going to be able to do this. Can someone else take it from me, and I will happily do whatever they had to do or whatever. And it was a relatively big group, so it was okay that I could back down a little bit because I had already done so much for this group. And they said, no, that's fine. You look after yourself. We will handle this. You can just help with the presentation. And like, it's so simple because people are so much more understanding in university, because people of all different ages, all different like life experience are there. They understood. For presentations, because I did a lot of presentations as a business degree, we do a lot of them on the spot sometimes they're prepped beforehand. Know the entire project. Know at least the bare minimum for each kind of subheading, so that when it comes to a Q&A session and the person who was in charge of that subheading can't answer, you can. In the end, it makes you look really good to your tutor, and your group will be very happy that you did it, because if none of you can answer, you don't get that mark. Another tip for mental health and stuff, your brain will give up on you eventually if you're pushing it too hard. My body and my mind have constantly been in battle. Like, I have been fighting both of those things for so much of my life, especially when it comes to university and studying. So I need to listen to my body when it says, I'm going to crash. You need to be ready to catch me. Remember that no matter how important university may seem to you in the moment, your mental health is more important. If that means saying, I can't study right now, I need to look after myself, and if that means I need to take the subject again, then that's okay. You need to be able to have that conversation with yourself and be happy with that outcome. Worst comes to worst and you do end up at rock bottom, there's nothing wrong with that. It's okay, you will get through this. For this final subject that I'm talking about, I had a really good group, but like it was a very well done group project, and we were all consistently helping each other, and we all had a really good chemistry. Like as a group, like we talked outside of class about like other stuff, and they were all really nice. Like what I think worked so well with this group was we were just constantly in communication. We would text almost every day about what we were doing, and if we needed help, we would send each other things. We would say, hey, can you edit this for me? And I'll edit your stuff. Hey, can you do this? Blah, blah, blah. And then we would have frequent touch points where, again, like an hour before class, we would talk about and work on it together on the same document so that we could see everything. And then we would have our class, and then after our class, we would have another call where we discussed what had happened in that class and then apply it to our project to make it even better. We could easily like say to each other, like, this is wrong. Can you fix it? Or like, I'm gonna fix this because you did it wrong. Is that okay? And you gotta push your ego back a little bit in times like these. I definitely had to more often than not. I say, yeah, you know what, just change it, whatever. If it's wrong, it's wrong. Tell me what to do to fix it. And yeah, if you have a big ego like me, just push it down a little bit. Say, you know what, not today. No ego today. You are correct in every single way. Oh, that rhymed. If your group is aiming for a mark that is higher than what you're aiming for, be honest with them. And if it's getting too much, again, be honest. They will take it fine. I think this group was aiming for like high distinctions, and I was like, bro, I just want to pass. Try not to spend all your money on textbooks unless you absolutely need it. So check your subject outline and see if the recommended textbooks, like how much there are, and see if you can split it with a friend. I think for me, I split it with a friend, and then like we both shared it. Another person, I bought it, and then he bought it off me because he was doing the class the next semester, so I got my money back. So keep that in mind. Finally, getting on to like just mental health stuff and just looking after yourself during university. Celebrate your wins. I celebrated my win of finishing my semester by getting some George Not Found merchandise. So that's cool. It doesn't always have to be monetary. Sometimes you can go on a date with yourself. I also did that. I went and bought myself some books. And if you don't get your goal, that's okay. There's always another class that you can take, or if you failed the class, you're taking the class again. But you'll already know what you're doing, so it's okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with failing. Remember that. So long as you get back up. I think that's the biggest thing that people need to remember if you do fail, is that you just need to get back up again. Because I personally have such a big issue with failing, I really want to validate people in saying that, like, if you do fail, there's nothing wrong with it. Uni is hard. There is a reason why not everyone goes to uni, because it's just not meant for everyone. If you're struggling in it, that's okay. And if you decide that uni is no longer for you, that is also okay. But don't let like a failed subject be the reason why you decide to stop and give up, because giving up is probably the worst that you can do. And there you have it. That's all the tips and tricks I have for you guys. I've probably missed a ton. I have been in uni for like another semester since I like compiled all those tips. So there are probably things that I've missed, but that's okay. I feel like I managed to get the point across. If you have any questions, my DMs are always open if you'd like to ask me or comment down below. But I hope you guys enjoyed that video. Give it a like, comment down below, subscribe, post notifications and all of that. Make sure you do check out the first video because that's where I explain like what my actual degree is, so that you can have a better understanding as to the context behind some of these tips, because some of them are quite applicable to me being in the degree that I am in. So keep that in mind. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next time. I hope you guys have a good morning, a good afternoon, a good evening, a good night, and goodbye.